What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the Devin Royale channel. I'm talking Dynasty Sells today. I did a couple weeks ago. I talked about Dynasty Buys. Today, I'm talking about sells, and that always makes people pissed off because you think I hate your favorite player, and that's not the case. Basically, I'm looking at these guys' values right now. We'll be going through some Dynasty trades out there that have happened. We're going to be talking about kind of where they're valued right now and why or why not, like, hey, looking at their value now, I'm okay moving off of it, getting a return on investment, or flatly just a couple guys, especially one that I'm just done. I'm done with it. I'm going to get what I can. I'm out. I'm going to re-roll that player. But there's some that I still really like as assets. I liked them last year as rookies, some of them coming in. And now I'm like, hey, well, I'm going to test the market, see where I'm at. So this is not a Dynasty hate list. All right. This is a Dynasty sell list based on value. And we're going to start with the guy that has a ton of people out there that love it. We're going to talk about Bo Nix. Now, many will say I'm a Bo Nix hater, but I want to talk about, generally speaking, where we're at with this kid. So he had a great year last year, right? So he had the 3,775 yards passing, 29 touchdowns. He was QB9, 18.4 fantasy finish in 2024. That's fantastic for a player that when you think about where he was getting drafted last year in rookie drafts, where he was getting drafted in startup drafts, he's boomed through his value. You see his value if you're watching on YouTube, 6505 on Keep Trade Cut. He has at quarterback 11 right now. Now, so why is he a sell for me? One, I just love some of the other pieces you can get for him, right? Because I think he's reached a point now where many people think he can be a top 12 quarterback. That means you can get a pretty good QB2 plus a legitimate asset back, right? So for one, this is definitely just a value statement. Like, hey, I like him. I think he is a solid QB2. I think he's getting priced at his ceiling as QB11, though. I understand that Sean Payton's offense looked great. I understand what he's kind of done down the stretch of season. I get all that. They can also add another weapon. I understand that, but I still don't see Bo Nix as anything more than a QB2. So if I can get another QB2 in that tier and in the same tier that I have him in, and get another asset or get a few assets or try to tier up, right? So we're going to talk about a couple trades on the screen for this. I'm willing to do that with Bo Nix. I think that it's a value right now, and I think he's getting overvalued based on the market. I think he's fine at QB11, but I think that's more his ceiling than his floor, and I think people think maybe he has a higher ceiling than that. And when you look at some of the deals, these are 12-team Superflex tight end premium deals. Bo Nix for Dak Prescott 107. This is probably going to be the controversial one because, Bo Nix in there at 24, Dak in his 30s. I still think Dak is a solid QB2 to go after. Now, you might not like this deal, but I'm going to because I believe in Dak. And I get the 107. And when you're looking at my big board right now and kind of looking at where that value is at, I still like the 107. And tight end premium, you're still looking at there are Warren and Loveland. You're working at one of the running backs kind of getting shot down there. And then one of these wide receivers, Emeka Egbuka, maybe possibly getting up to rankings there. I like the 107 value, right? And you're still doubling Bo Nix's value from what you got him at. So you're still getting that ROI, that return on investment from what you put in him last year. The next one is that tier up. Bo Nix 105 and a 26 first. So you're paying up a little bit for Lamar Jackson, but you're probably paying up for, if not QB1, QB2 in Dynasty right there behind Josh Allen. I like this deal. I like the idea that if you would have sent this last year, you got laughed out of a room, right? If you can move off Bo Nix and a couple first for Lamar and go win now and go get that piece of Lamar, who's going to be a top 5 fantasy prospect, not even prospect, dynasty piece for the next 5 years. I mean, I'm all aboard that, right? And those are going to be late first anyway. I mean, the 105 is not, but the 26 first most likely is. I would go get Lamar Jackson there. I don't think what you're getting back for Bo Nix and those picks with comparable to Lamar is worth it. I would take Lamar in that deal. Bo Nix and Jaden Reed for CJ Stroud in the 104. Again, this is on Fantasy Calc. This happened. And the way I look at it is maybe CJ Stroud was getting overpriced last year, right? But the 104 with that, man, smash that all day if I can get that kind of return. I would take any first with CJ Stroud for Jaden Reed and Bo Nix. So not like if you're like, hey, 104 never happened in my league because you all play in amazing leagues. I would take any first. Give me a late first too. Like I think that just getting CJ Stroud with any type of late first for a guy with Jaden Reed, where I mean, is the Packers even have a wide receiver one right now? I mean, they're even talking about. I've seen some mocks with them drafting a wide receiver. I'm okay taking the CJ Stroud side there. Bo Nix for Trevor Lawrence in the 112. This is probably the one deal where you could look at it and say Bo Nix side, but I still think Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen there, Brian Thomas Jr. plus the 112. you probably could get a little more, especially for what you're looking at that previous deal, right? So I wouldn't sell yourself short. I would maybe add a little piece to that Trevor Lawrence 112 side to see what you could cook up. But I still lean the Trevor Lawrence side. But I realize that might be the one hesitation. But no, I'll take Bo Nix there. And if Bo Nix, George Pickens for JJ McCarthy and Drake London, man, give me Drake London and JJ. Give me the upside with JJ. And I know the mystery box people are going to be yelling at me, but I just think in that Minnesota offense, he's going to, at worst, be a QB2, which Bo Nix is. But if I can get Drake London for George Pickens for that, I will do that all day because, when you're looking at Drake and George, I don't think it's comparable. I think Drake London is the best dynasty asset, and from a fantasy perspective, the more consistent player. Now, we're going to go to running backs. And again, I don't hate your players, right? We're going to start with Bucky Irving. Again, I liked Bucky Irving coming into the season. There are many that liked him much more. He's had a fantastic run when you look at his dynasty value. This year, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, running back 15 at 14.3 fantasy points per game. But down the stretch, when healthy, he was a top 5 running back, right? The question I have for Bucky, and this is kind of what I look at for him. Obviously, value-wise, I'm going to show you some deals that I really like if you can move off Bucky for. But you're still returning that investment, right? And I think that, early season, he didn't get as much run as he wanted. He's going to have a new offensive coordinator, Josh Grizzard, I think is how you say it. He's there now. He's just kind of getting promoted up. But from a passing perspective, that offensive coordinator is amazing, right? We don't know what that run game is going to look like. Rachaad White is still there. Early in the season, we didn't see really Bucky out there, which definitely hurt kind of like the hindsight of him, like what could he do moving forward? But durability issues were always a question mark about Bucky Irving, even coming out of college. And you saw that down the stretch. Like, I think the reality with Bucky is, can he be a true workhorse, right? Can he be that guy that you're like, hey, because that running back 6 prices on Keep Trade Cut, he better be a true workhorse, right? That's something that you're looking at. Like if he's getting priced at that range, you want him to be a true 3-down guy. I don't know. Now, I have him on some dynasty teams. I'll be the first to say that. And I am actively shopping him because, hey, what does that look like? Sean Tucker also is there. And I know, Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and I was never a Sean Tucker truther. If you've been with me for the days, you know that. But, hey, his efficiency stats were pretty crazy this year when you look at Sean Tucker there. And I think he'll eat in that workload more than people are going to like. And then we look at this, pass first team, has those weapons there. What's that offensive line looks like? I think that Bucky passed the test of, like, can he be an NFL guy? You saw that. I think the role and the volume doesn't equal the running back 6. Like, that's where I'm at. I just don't know if I expect him to get any higher than that based on what his role could be. And I think that I see a decline in that role. Doesn't mean that he can't have those ceiling weeks, because I think he's still a special player. And from a PPR standpoint, you still like that, especially with Baker Mayfield being there. But I just think there's some other guys you can get. So let's dive through it. So Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs for T. Higgins, Devonta Chain. I'll take T. Higgins there, and I'll just get a running back that's pretty similar to Bucky in a chain. Bucky Irving is second for Brian Thomas Jr. Give me the wide receiver. Give me Brian Thomas Jr. with Trevor Lawrence in that offense. That's a great price to play for a 4th-round guy that you drafted in your rookie draft and a second this year. Bucky Irving for CMC in 104. Again, if CMC comes back healthy, he's a league winner. And I know that's a big if. And everybody's going to say, hey, I can't. Everybody has a crystal ball saying CMC is not going to stay healthy there. But you also get that 104 back. And there's a lot of things you can do with the 104. There are, quarterback falls there. You could trade it out. There's so much things you can do with that 104 that provides flexibility. I'll take CMC the risk with the 104 attached to it on a guy that got in the 4th round again, even though I understand I'm taking a little bit of a risk there, right? But I don't mind taking risks based on my dynasty rosters. Then you have Irving, Devonta Smith, and a 1st for Justin Jefferson. So that's going up and getting a big boy, right? I love that. I think that this owner who got Justin Jefferson is also selling that 27 first smoke. Hey, come get Jeremiah Smith in a couple years, even though it's a couple years away, and you're starting to see 27 first getting valued that way. Man, give me Bucky. Give me that deal for Justin Jefferson. If Bucky, Devonta, and a 1st is going that way, that's how you get elite dollar prices, right? Like you take these 3 quarters, you say, hey, look at these shiny quarters here. They're amazing. Who knows what that 1st is going to be? It is the next Justin Jefferson. And you go grab Justin Jefferson and win your league. Then you got Bucky Irving for Drake London. That's kind of like a wide receiver running back debate there. But again, I think I lean Drake. You probably get something extra on the side just based on Drake London's kind of wide receiver dynasty ranking right now. But this is where I'm at with Bucky. I like him. Running back 6 might be just too high of a price right now. And if I can tear down and then get another 1st-round pick with it, that's fine, because you look at the running back position, it's so volatile, right? These guys get These guys get injured, boom, there goes their value. So get that other asset, collect that other asset there. Next guy, this one's really simple for me, is Tyrone Tracy Jr. from the New York Giants. When you're thinking of him, he had a really good year, right? And we saw that year that he had on a bad team. And I get nervous about that. So I get nervous about a day 3 kid having a good year on a bad team. 839 yards rushing, the 5 touchdowns, we know that. Receiving looked great because he was a true receiver at a point in his career. The 53 targets, 284 yards, 38 receptions, another touchdown. He was still running back 28, though, at 10.9 fantasy points per game. And when you're looking at right now where he's getting priced at, running back 18. And I like Tyrone Tracy, and I think he's there. But again, he's 25 years old. I think that the Giants are going to have much better weapons this year. I think they're going to really attack the weapons in either free agency or the draft. It wouldn't shock me to see them draft another running back in this class. And to me, that's just going to knock down Tyrone Tracy's value. We've been down this road many a times. Day 3 guy, bad team. Oh, but he's going to be their guy. Oh, wait, no, he's not after 3 months, right? So let's look at some value for him. Tyrone Tracy for the 112. If I get a first, do it all day. If I can get any type of first, he also went for a 26 first. I actually saw a 27 first. That's absolute bad shit. If you can get a 27 first for Tyrone Tracy, you do that all day. Like I can't imagine that happening, but I saw it on the calc and I was like, man, I can't put that out there because YouTube will get mad at me if I put it out there. But it's out there, right? There was a 26 first. So maybe you can parlay Tyrone Tracy, who's a 4th round rookie pick-ish, 3rd, for a 27 first. I mean, that's the type of deal you make. Then he went for the early 2nd. And again, this just comes down to like what running backs are going to be there. This is a deeper class. How do you feel about that? You're kind of re-rolling plus getting a better asset, hopefully. I think that's a hard one. Tyrone in 302 for Jalen Waddle. And I'm not a huge Waddle guy. I am trying to pivot off of Waddle if I can. But I mean, that's too good to pass up in terms of a guy in Miami's offense with Tua and that coaching staff, right? And that scheme. I think I would lean Waddle there. And then finally, Tracy in a 2nd for Jordan Addison. I think this is an interesting deal. And again, this just comes down to the way you value wide receivers. And I think that you're looking at that pick. I think the wide receiver class as a whole is a little more down this year in terms of where that value is going to be at in a 2nd. So that's an early 2nd. That's a little better for me, but I still lean Jordan Addison here. I think he kind of came on strong down the stretch. We're going to be talking about one of his teammates as being a sell here in a little bit, and I think Addison's really assumed that wide receiver 2 role. So I would lean Addison there as well. And when you're looking at it, I mean, I just don't see running back 18s to me in Dynasty rankings are a dime a dozen. These guys come and go. Look at where Tyrone Tracy was before the season. And again, looking at his outlook, looking at that team, that roster, everything's coming into play. I'm selling Tyrone Tracy all day this summer. Now, this next one's going to piss people off, but I love this kid. I have him on my rosters. I'm not telling you that you have to sell him. I'm just telling you it's time to kind of search it out there and look at the value. And that's Ladd McConkey. Listen, he's at wide receiver 10/11. He just got to 11, but I left it up there because it's so intermixable at Keep Trade Cut. That's a pretty high price for a wide receiver when you're looking overall. It's not that he's a one-year wonder, right? He's 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. He finished as wide receiver 12 this year, 15.0 fantasy points per game. But we've seen players kind of have an upswing in their value right away. So we've seen this, right? Remember Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson. You can maybe throw Garrett Wilson in that category. Even Kyle Pitts. We've seen that big bump, and everybody expects what's next, right? That leveling up that's coming. But at the end, it just doesn't happen. It's not that they're not great, but it's like, hey, should Ladd be valued as a wide receiver 1, even a low-end wide receiver 1? Or should his true value be like wide receiver 16 to 20, right? And I think that's the argument you have in here. I think that he's still a great value, right? And I'm not selling for cheap. This is where I would be selling at wide receiver 10 prices if someone wants to pay up thinking he can get into the wide receiver 5 category. I hope that makes sense here. All right. So I hope you listen to this argument on here instead of going in the comments immediately and calling me an idiot. But that's kind of where I'm at with Ladd. But here's the other thing, too. Not only that whole one-year wonder type thing, and I don't think he's a one-year wonder in terms of like he won't produce again. I just think that maybe his ceiling is capped based on what the Chargers have a potential to do. Remember, he came into a great spot this year because they just didn't have anybody. Quentin Johnson is okay. Didn't really have a tight end out there. Running back room was kind of makeshift. So the one way their offense could go was get Ladd McConkey the ball. And remember, there were some durability concerns with Ladd coming out of college. Not saying that's the case now. I'm just saying, hey, remember that kind of narrative was going on. And I think the Chargers are going to go after a true wide receiver one, whether that be T. Higgins, whether that be someone in the draft. They're definitely going after someone. They were trying to go after people throughout the season too. You heard that the rumors going out there, and that doesn't hurt Ladd too much. It just caps the ceiling, right? So if we're talking about what Ladd can be, maybe he turns into a solid wide receiver too, which is great. But if you look at some of these deals here, like Ladd, the 105 and the 205 for CeeDee Lamb and Sam Laporta. And I'm not huge on Sam Laporta as like the dynasty rankings out there, but man, if I can turn Ladd and a first and a second into CeeDee Lamb, I'm doing that, right? That's my tier up. This is where CeeDee Lamb's getting valued as like that wide receiver 5-ish range, and Ladd is close now, so I can just add a couple pieces to tier up. Plus, I get Sam Laporta. I think that's a smash deal there. Ladd and Stafford and Andrews for Brock Bowers. Again, if I could tier up to Brock Bowers for guys like Andrews and Stafford. Stafford at best has one more year left. Andrews, I don't know what's going to happen after that disastrous playoff game, where his mental state is. Isaiah Likely kind of taking over that role. If I could do that for Brock, 100%, I would throw in another asset if I had to. I would even throw in another pick if I had to for Brock Bowers. So if something like that could get done, I'm definitely leaning the Brock side there. Ladd for Zay and a 108. Again, this might be your, I'm not doing that. I like to put those on it to show you, though. And again, Ladd for Rome and 110. So it's kind of like your pick your poison there. I don't mind either side. But again, if I have these guys close in the same tier, and I can get a first-round pick, I'm going to do that. I'm going to lean on that first-round pick too and that value there. I'd love for that pick to be a little higher if I can get a little higher, like a 105-ish in that range. But if I do believe in Zay or I believe in Rome, and I do believe in Rome, I think the Rome deal is my favorite one in terms of those two deals because I think Rome coming in can be a very solid wide receiver too. Love him in Ben Johnson's offense. I wrote about it on our Substack. I talked about kind of what that outlook looks like. He's one of my favorite buys, Rome is. If I can move off of him for Ladd and Rome came in as a better prospect for another first as well, that's the deal I'm willing to make. And the next one is a pick your poison. Who do you want? So Ladd and Brock for Garrett Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. I'm still a Garrett Wilson guy. I think Garrett Wilson can definitely definitely play up. His situation is not amazing here. I think this is a very 50-50 shot, right? If Trevor Lawrence plays to what his ability can be, I think he's better than Brock Purdy as a fantasy asset. I love him in that offense. I love the direction of that team. And it's going to hurt when Brock gets paid because I think it's going to really limit what the 49ers are going to be able to put around him. But he's got one more year of that, right? And in Garrett Wilson and Ladd, I think Garrett Wilson is a tremendous player, much better. But Ladd's got a better situation for now. Now, what I mentioned could happen where he kind of gets pushed down a little bit based on what they'll go out there and acquire, kind of like Garrett did with Devontae Adams in a bad quarterback spot. But that's what it comes down to. Do you believe the Jets are going to address that quarterback spot, or do you want him with Herbert with Ladd? So that's a deal that's very close. I like to get both sides here just to kind of show you here. But I do think if you can do those other deals and tier up to a guy like CD or Brock in those areas, that's why I included him here on this sell to kind of talk about him there. Next guy is a guy I'm just out on. I'm just going to be honest with you. Just done. Chris Olave. I'm out. I'm done. I know his value is plateaued. This is probably a perfect opportunity. People are going to go tell you to buy or hold or whatever. But to me, I'm just done with what he's kind of put up throughout the seasons, right? And his last year was really bad. He's still wide receiver 23 on Keep Trade Cut, but 44 targets last year, 32 catches, 400 yards. Obviously missed the rest of the season with the injury. But even before then, when you're looking at his numbers, 23 was his best year, obviously. 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns. But I look at that. I don't want any part of that Saints offense. I don't want any part of like the kind of the inconsistency of Chris Olave. And for him to kind of put that up and still get valued as a wide receiver 23, and in some places still valued, going through some people's rankings, 15 to 20 range still, to me, I'm going to try to tier up like in this deal, Olave and Nico Collins for Justin Jefferson. Smash Justin Jefferson all day. Olave for the 104. That's fine. I will re-roll Olave into a top 5 rookie pick this year. Olave and Gabe Davis for James Cook. I don't advocate always buying running backs, but you get a guy like James Cook for 1 year and you need it and you have that production and you see that, I'm okay with that one as well. Olave and DJ Moore for the 204. I don't think there's that much difference outside of age with Olave and DJ Moore. And if I can get a second, I'm okay with that. And I'm a big believer in that Chicago offense this year with Caleb, and that might come back to bite my ass, but I would rather have DJ Moore moving forward. Yeah, I'm going to compete. I'm going to compete and go try to win it. I would take DJ Moore at this point. And Olave, Parker Washington, 112 for Brian Thomas Jr. Again, if all I got to give up is Olave, a first, and Parker Washington for Brian Thomas Jr., I'm okay with that. I'd be willing to go all the way from 104 to 112 in that range to give up for Brian Thomas Jr. So if you can tell me the 112 is available in that, add that to that package and get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., I'm okay with that. I think that the Saints are in salary cap hell. I think they're in QB purgatory. I don't necessarily love, offense Kellen Moore going there if he does end up finally going there. And also, I think they're in the market for another wide receiver. I think that they're going to draft one. I think they've been talking about Luther Burden a lot in the top 10. And even if not, I think in the second round, they're going to go after that. Olave just did not look good this year. Not a very good vibes. And maybe he'll leave. Maybe he's going to demand a trade or however that works. But I think we know what he is, and I still think you might be able to get higher than what his value is because of that name, because, 24 is an aberration. But if I can go get a legit asset, Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas Jr., a top 5 rookie pick, I think it's worth trying to move. Throw out some feelers and look for Chris Olave to kind of move off of him. And then my last guy here is tight end. Always got to throw a tight end, even though I don't love talking tight ends all the time. I got to talk about Hawkinson. So I recently did an article on our Substack. We looked at ADP, and I looked at ADP and kind of addressed okay, who are some buys and sells based on real dynasty draft ADP going right now? You can find it below. It's on our Substack there. But Hawkinson to me stood out. He's still going as tight end 4, right? And he's still getting valued as tight end 4 right now. But I don't think that ADP really aligns with his projected role, right? Last year, obviously coming off the injury, he did okay. 41 catches, 455 yards, no touchdowns though, tied in 10. But the issue was the 9.3 fantasy points per game. And the issue is Jordan Addison really kind of ascended to that spot. And I think with JJ coming in, I think it could help a little bit with Hawkinson. But I just think Addison's role has changed now. I think Addison's their guy, and he's going to definitely be that wide receiver 2 now. And I just think that this presents an ideal opportunity because the tight end position is so volatile, right? Maybe after Brock Bowers, it's kind of like pick your poison here. I think you can tier down and acquire additional assets. I just look at him and saying, hey, looking at his outlook, looking at his possible decline here, he's also going to be 28 next year. I would love to tier down and try to find something else. And to me, there are some deals that really make sense. TJ Hawkinson for Njoku and a 205. I love Njoku. I think he is the smashing buy of this offseason right now. And if I can get a second back, I'm willing to do that. I probably can get a first back. So I would start with a first, and I would definitely haggle a little bit there. Hawkinson for a first, the 108 range. That's Loveland and Warren territory. If I can re-roll Hawkinson to those 2 top guys in the tight end position this year, you do that because look at what Brock Bowers has done. Look at what some of these guys, and I'm not comparing them to that, but I do think in the right role, they can be top 5 guys right away. Just look at the dynasty rankings in tight end. It's a disaster, right? Hawkinson at 305 for Xavier Worthy. Yes, I will take Xavier Worthy with Patrick Mahomes on the Chiefs, especially with Travis Kelce's decline, Rashee Rice coming off that major injury. Give me Xavier Worthy there. Hawkinson for Jameson Williams. I would take Jameson Williams again. Same thing. Okay, in a great offense. I think that he's got a sustained role in that offense. I love the fact that he is a younger wide receiver. A lot of things align for me to say Jameson Williams is the better asset. And then Hawkinson, Chase Brown for Sam Laporta and James Conner. Again, really, I would take Sam Laporta all day. And I understand the Chase Brown love there, but you can't tell me that maybe James Conner has a better year next year, right? I wouldn't bet on it after next year, but you can't tell me from a production standpoint, an expected fantasy point standpoint, that James Conner won't give you that same production. And I'll just take the better tight end and the younger tight end in that range. Obviously, you're taking a little hit there. That's a reason why you're selling it for that price. But I'll take Sam Laporta over TJ Hawkinson, and that way I have an elite asset-ish. I don't want to. He's elite, but that offense is going to be interesting without Ben Johnson being there for the next 3 or 4 years, because where Hawkinson's at, I just don't see him ever getting that level. And if you look at his value, it's about as high as it's been right now, right? At tight end 4, we haven't seen it that high. And from a production standpoint, that doesn't align to me. Like, if you're in a dynasty startup, I also am a vibe-based drafter, right? So if I'm in a dynasty startup, am I excited about drafting TJ Hawkinson at tight end 4? Probably not. And when you're looking at where he's going, I'm not comfortable with that, right? I mean, there's other guys going there, but he's getting drafted, right before. And when you're just looking at kind of the area here, Andrews, Kincaid, Kittle, Pitts. And I know people don't like Pitts, but shit, I'd be more comfortable in a dynasty startup drafting Kyle Pitts than TJ Hawkinson, 100%. So those are my Dynasty sells. Let me know in the comments how dumb I am. That's your favorite pastime here. But talk about it. Throw some trades out there. I love discussing them, going through with you guys, talking about trades, talking about Dynasty, takeaways, all of that. As always, be sure to subscribe. Drop a comment below, or hey, go look at our Substack. We write things weekly out there. Devy, Dynasty, NFL Draft. There's a ton of content out there for you guys, and our Patreon. Go check that out. We're updating our rankings as we speak for combined Dynasty Devy rankings and separate. So if you just like Dynasty, you just like Devy, we have those for you, excluding the 2028 class, the new oncoming class here entering the college football year. Appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys on the next episode.